Welcome into Dragon Ball Super Dope. My name is Kyle. Thank you for checking this out. So this is a solo episode today. For the last few months, I've been threatening to do a Dragon Ball GT rewatch, review, kind of retrospective, whatever word you want to call it, whatever word you want to call it. And it comes up for a couple of reasons. The first one is that Dragon Ball Daima is about to premiere in October. And a lot of people saw the premise of Dragon Ball Daima and that everybody gets turned into little kids. And they were like, oh, it's GT 2.0. Which, I mean, yeah, maybe. I guess we'll see how it goes. Hopefully you're wrong, because GT is a bad series. The other catalyst to make me want to do this in the first place, even before Daima was ever announced, this has been going for the last few years in my brain. People are like real quick to say that Dragon Ball GT is a better product than Dragon Ball Super. And I don't know why people say that. I don't know if it's like a shock value thing. I don't know if they're just trying to get some clicks. You know, even negative engagement is good for the algorithm. Engagement is engagement or whatever. The idea that GT is worse than Super is objectively wrong. There is no faster way to tell me that you have not watched Dragon Ball GT than when you say that GT is better than Super. And I say that as a person who is both very aware of Dragon Ball Super's flaws and also a GT apologist. Like, I like GT more than the average person. I have like a very like nostalgia-based connection to it, how I originally first got to view it. A lot of GT ties into myself as a person, as a Dragon Ball fan. It was the first series I ever saw entirely in Japanese as Dragon Ball goes. You know, I'd always kind of gotten bits and pieces of both Japanese and the dub for Dragon Ball Z up to the point where I was like 11. 11 years old, my Christmas gift was a Dragon Ball GT box set. And by box set, I mean some dude, probably named Hitoshi, taped it off the TV in Japan. And they subtitled it, and I had all 64 episodes, and I watched the shit out of those tapes when I was young. I have a real soft spot for GT. That said, I am aware of how fucking bad it is during specific stretches. It does some things masterfully, including the first two episodes, I think. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about today. The first two episodes of Dragon Ball GT. I feel like they kind of do go hand in hand. Even though episode 1, I feel, could operate like as a very strong like pilot episode for whatever anime you want to do, I do feel like episode 1 and 2 go hand in hand. I'm going to talk about them together today, but I know what's going to happen when like episode 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rolls around. I'm going to not be very fun because it's kind of bad. And not even like GT gets that rap of like, oh, it's too little kiddish, it's too cartoonish. Yeah, it is. It wants to be anyway. They also just don't do it very well. Like, you can do little kiddish without it being annoying or bad. And GT does it very, very poorly, very consistently. But it does have those high points where it kind of leans back into what the DNA of Dragon Ball Z was. And they're able to take some inspiration from those other properties and kind of make some cool shit throughout. Don't worry, furries. We'll get to Super Saiyan 4. I, too, think it's cool as hell. But you guys also need to come to terms with what's going on in your brain. So here's what I figured I'll do. I'm going to read the synopses for the first 2 episodes of Dragon Ball GT. I already pre-read the synopses because I was like, a lot of words, Kyle. Reading stuff. Dragon Ball fan. But in reality, these are definitely, almost definitely, translated from another language. And some of these sentences are, they're tough, man. They're very, very run on. You know what I mean? So, if I struggle through these, please excuse me. But I figure I'll read the synopses, kind of give, points throughout. Maybe I'll read through them and give points afterwards. I imagine I'll interrupt myself a ton. So let's do this. Ready? Episode 1, dub title, A Devastating Wish. slash the translated Japanese title, the mysterious Dragon Balls appear. Son Goku Becomes a Child. Original airing date for the Japanese is February 7th, 96. And then it came out almost 9 years later to the day, February 5th, 2005 in English. That's interesting to me. All right, let's read the synopsis. What's frustrating to me about GT is like this first episode is so cool and leaves things in such an open-ended, cool place. And then they're just like, meh, you nerds wanted some cool shit. Fuck you. Let's see. As Goku and Oob fight inside Dende's lookout, an elderly Emperor Pilaf scales the outside of the lookout and sneaks into the inner chamber unnoticed. He finds the Black Star Dragon Balls and summons the dragon so he can wish to take over the world. After Goku and Oob finally ended their training, and Oob leaving the lookout after bidding farewell to Goku, as Goku is about to leave the lookout to return home, as he tells this is what I'm saying. This is the sentence I was thinking about specifically. Goku is about to leave the lookout to return home, as he tells Dende and Mr. Popo that he hasn't been home for so many years and thinks that Chi-Chi is going to be mad at him. He notices a mysterious light coming from inside the lookout. Period. We got there, boys. Pilaf was about to wish to take over the world until he is interrupted by Goku, who asks where the mysterious light is coming from and recognizes Pilaf as Pilaf. Discovers that Goku looks very familiar, and Pilaf orders his assistants, Shu and Mai, to fire missiles at Goku. But Goku stops the missiles and tells the gang, all right, I'm going to fucking take a break from this. This is very poorly written. It's very long. It's probably the longest episode synopsis that I've seen to this point, just scrolling through, which is great. We're just getting through the tough shit right up front, boys. Just to go through the first couple moments. So we zoom in on the lookout. Goku and Oob are doing their thing. Kami, look at me. Dende. Huh. He refers to it as Oob's graduation ceremony, or asks if it's Oob's graduation ceremony when Oob comes out of the chamber with Goku. He's like, nah, graduation. We don't graduate. We don't want me to give this kid a diploma. It was just like a way for them to fight all out and whatever. He goes and notices Pilaf. Like, I think what I like about this first episode, genuinely speaking, is it sets up the plot very effectively for what will be more or less the whole series, but especially this first arc of the series, which ultimately kind of blows, right? But they do a really fun job incorporating old things and getting the point across. Like, I feel like it's kind of so intentional to like reset the cast, make Goku a kid, make fucking Pan his companion, and Trunks kind of like the Yamcha older guy type. Like, it's a very, ham-fisted attempt at being like, we're going back to the old formula. You know what I mean? And I think that with this episode, even though it is kind of beating you over the head with like what's going to happen, it is kind of done in a very fun way. And I think that this is a sign of things to come for this series that will be a thing I'm sure I'll talk about throughout any and all of these episodes that I do. Even though GT as a premise is actually kind of cool, when you like take a step back and look at the macro of GT and its arcs, it's like, that's a cool idea. When you look at the execution, it's done so fucking poorly sometimes. And it's just done in a very little kiddish, cartoonish kind of way, often at the expense of characters that we've known to be, like expert martial artists or really smart tacticians or just generally smart people. A lot of times GT will just kind of throw some pocket sand in that eye of the character we once knew and make them a dummy. Goku, Pan, Trunks, everyone included. What stinks about this, though, is when they get away from Earth. Like, GT almost feels like a sitcom to me at certain points. And when they get away from Earth and they get away from that, like that pool of like common referential knowledge of what I know about other characters, other people's situations, other things going on Earth, that's when the show gets kind of shitty. When you put these three characters, like, okay, Goku, yes. Pan, Pan's a device. We'll talk about Pan more. And then Trunks, and it's like grown up little kid Trunks. He's not even cool old future Trunks that we hung out and spent so much time with in a very similar kind of looking appearance. You know what I mean? Like it just feels a little bit different. But when they get away from Earth and get like away from the self-referential shit that this series so much loves to do, because GT loves to be referential to old Dragon Ball. For instance, I think this is in episode 2. The first time you see Trunks jump out the window, he's like, "Oh, Capsule Corp president, how you doing, buddy? You're great." The first time you see Trunks jump out the window, he says to himself, "There's no way to fly like the Buku Jutsu." Like, man, we haven't called it the Buku Jutsu since 1988, 1997. You calling it the Buku Jutsu? Why? For me? You know what Buku Jutsu means? You know what sky dancing means? I know you know how to do it, but like, you know the term? I just figured, just like Super Saiyan, you guys just kind of did it automatically, you know? But it's just a way for the animators to kind of continue to reference old pieces of Dragon Ball, which I think this series does very well when they're given the opportunity. But the whole premise of the series is to take them away from the environment in which they have those opportunities. Wow, that was a lot of shit. All right, let's see. Pilaf was about to make the wish to take over the world until he is interrupted by Goku. Oh shit, I read that one. It's a really long synopsis. Frustrated, he accidentally says that he wishes Goku were a child again so he could beat his ass, unaware that the dragon is listening. I do love that scene where Goku's like, "What's going on out here?" So I flash a light and it's kind of dark and I recognize you. You look old now. The dragon grants this accidental wish and Goku becomes a child, shocking Dende and Mr. Popo. After Pilaf leaves, King Kai tells Goku that the only way he can return to normal is by finding the Black Star Dragon Balls, which are now scattered throughout the galaxy. However, Goku decides it will be easier to just grow up again. He's like, "Nah, it's cool. I'll just wait it out. I'm not going to go look for Dragon Balls across all 4 universe quadrants." What a prick. That's really funny. However, Goku decides it will be easier to just grow up again after telling King Kai that he kind of likes being the size of a kid again. That's a red flag, Goku. And he heads into town. There, he finds Pan foiling a bank robbery while Pan is on a date, as she doesn't recognize him at first, and Pan discovers that the little boy is her grandfather after Goku sees Master Roshi again. Roshi recognizes Goku. This is the longest fucking sentence. And asks him of how did he become small, as Goku tells Master Roshi that Emperor Pilaf summoned Shenron and accidentally wished for Goku to become small again, before asking if Chi-Chi is going to be mad at him for being gone for too long. Who the fuck wrote this summary, and why don't you know how to make sentences better? Also, why did I make the fucking executive decision to read it? Christ. All right. I feel like this is the first instance, and I'm sure, again, it's something I'm going to talk about. This is the first instance of them not knowing how to write Pan, is what I originally thought. But then I thought about it some more. So Pan serves a lot of different roles in Dragon Ball GT. This first time that we see her, she's out on a date, which I think she's supposed to be like, what, 13, 14? I think she's supposed to be 14 in this series. 4 at the end of Z. It's 10 years later. 7 by the dub, I believe. I could be wrong on the math. I'm just making shit up at this point, probably. Who cares? With Pan, the first time you see her, she's on a date. And that's weird. And she's like definitely vying for the affection of this dude. They want to go to the movies. Then she got to break up a bank robbery. Cool. Very fun. But when we see Pan throughout the next, the second half of this episode and the other episode, episode 2, it's just like she plays the role of like a young girl trying to date. And then she plays the young, like, I'm a little kid. What do you mean Papa's going to go to space? I want to go to space. Like, she plays the role of like a cocky niece when she talks shit to Goten when he's on the phone in episode 2 trying to like sure up plans on his date. Like, you're going to get dumped anyway, fucking loser. Like, wow, all right. Jesus, tell me how you really feel, Panchon. Like, she just plays so many different roles, and it's definitely plot driven, or even, it could just be like scene to scene. She just is who she is to make the scene work. But I was thinking more about it, and like, given that she's supposed to take over the Bulma archetype, and by that I mean like, you think about OG Dragon Ball, Bulma is very much that thing. Like, she is a plot device in a few different ways. You know, she is the damsel in distress. She is somebody who can think her way out of any kind of situation with like technology and science and all that when the plot needs her to be that. She can also, given her age gap, especially early Dragon Ball with Goku, and that's another thing that they kind of harp on in these episodes too. It's like, I can't believe my grandpa's younger than I am now. She is kind of like that, for lack of a better term, older sister, but like the more authoritative, outspoken, strong-willed, whatever type of character. And Pan kind of does all those things. And I don't know. It's just like a sign of things to come for me when I watch these episodes where I'm like, wow, there's no consistency to how they're doing, Pan's character in these scenes. Like, I don't know. It's just, it gets worse. It gets worse. And I feel the same way about Trunks as well. Even though Trunks really isn't in this first episode, I don't think at all. I do feel the same way about Trunks. Now, that was the world's longest run-on sentence we just got through. Let's see if we can get through the next one. Let's see. Chi-Chi's going to be mad at him for being gone too long. Let's see. He heads home for the first time in years with her and explains to everyone what happened, which shocks Gohan, Videl, and a crying Chi-Chi, as Gohan asks his father what he's going to do now. But Goku thinks that he is unsure, with Gohan telling his father that he can only return to normal if he makes a wish from the Black Star Dragon Balls. Yeah. As much as I love how this first episode gets across the concept of what the series and the first arc will be, it was a little clunky because like King Kai interjects. Gohan's like, you got to use the same Dragon Balls. It's like, oh, that's the rule. But then King Kai interjects again and he says, King Kai interrupts. Oh, I'm just reading. King Kai interrupts with their conversation. He has discovered that when a wish is made on the Black Star Dragon Balls, the planet the wish was made on will explode within 1 year unless the 7 balls are brought back. Bum, 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 bum. So, oh no, high stakes. Now we have to go collect these Dragon Balls, because I just love the fact that Goku was more than chill, with like, yeah, I'm like 10. My wife's like mid-50s. How much longer she got? I can wait this out. I'm just saying. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they do a good job of kind of teasing out the concept, and then ultimately the execution is going to go nowhere. But episode 2, I think, does a really good job. I should say a really good job at. It doesn't. I don't want to say fan service. Fan service is not the right word, but the way in which they incorporate the other characters that I was wondering about throughout the first episode. Like, we see Master Roshi briefly, we see Chi-Chi, we see Gohan briefly. I didn't see shit about Vegeta, Pan, or Vegeta, Bulma, or Trunks. And they really do give that to you in the second episode, which I think I like more, and I'm almost more upset with, because, man, they really started to get the pacing down and like just understand like all these little unexpected things that happen within the main cast are so much fun, and you can just build half of a story or half of an episode around, whether that's like Goten and Trunks getting dragged away by Vegeta to go do the thing, Gohan and Bulma working on the spaceship together. Like, the weaknesses that this show encounters is when they're off Earth, and that's why the first 20 episodes, I should say like 18, obviously first 2 episodes are excused, 3 through I want to say 17 are fucking hot garbage, dude. So much to the point that Funimation didn't even want to dub them at first and only released them on home video after the fact, and they were called the lost episodes because nobody wanted to fucking watch them, so they got lost. You know what I mean? Get lost, loser. But they do course correct, eventually, and I'm going to be happy to get there. But man, this first saga and a half are going to be a slog for me to get through. Let's read the synopsis for the second episode. I think I'm at like, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes. So, maybe this will be a kind of on time episode in terms of what I usually try to do under that hour mark. But we'll see. Let's see, episode 2. Pan blasts off. I'll take the lead. Pan flies into space. That's the Japanese title. She's taken the lead, and she's about to fly into space, much like she does in Dragon Ball Super when she is but an infant. February 14th, 1996. Happy Valentine's Day, bitch. Let's see. Bulma begins preparing the spaceship for Goku's journey. Gohan decides to go as well because he can help Goku find the Black Star Dragon Balls. Mainly because he's not a fucking moron. Pan is very disappointed that she cannot go because she's too young. Everyone, except for her grandfather, Hercule, has been treating her like a child lately, and she is getting frustrated. Dude, like I said, I've had these episodes on tape since I was, before I was a teenager. I've watched these episodes a lot, especially these first few episodes. There's the scene where Pan is getting like coffee. She drinks black coffee, no cream, no sugar, with Mr. Satan, and she's just like venting to him about how she feels treated like a little kid. It's a nice little scene, but I watch it in Japanese, right? This dub is notoriously bad. Like if you tell me like that step into the Grand Tour shit, I'll smack you in the mouth. Nobody wants to hear that. And then people be like, Kyle, you're racist. You don't like rap music. First of all, I'm pretty sure that was rapped out by a white dude. Second of all, even if it wasn't, that fucking song sucks balls. Just because I don't like shitty rap songs doesn't mean I don't like rap songs. I digress. There is a scene where they're having coffee together and Satan is like, I'm going to drop in the sound right now. He's just like, Panchan, what do you mean they're treating you like a baby? That's messed up. And she's just like, yeah. That's what the subtitle is. But what she says is, Soda!
そうだそうだ
パンちゃんは赤ちゃんじゃないぞ
そうだそうだ
And I've just had that in my brain for a really long time. Soda! It sounds like soda. Like I drink soda, Diet Coca-Cola, Soda! Either way, I just wanted to point that out. There's actually a couple of those sounds. There's another one in the first episode that I failed to mention when he first meets Master Roshi. So Pan breaks up the bank robbery. Goku busts in and they're like, what do you mean you didn't realize that's your grandpa? And he explains to Master Roshi what happened to him. And Master Roshi, I hear it in my head all the time whenever I hear bad news, dude. And shout out to the voice actor. This is actually not the OG Roshi voice actor, if memory serves. I'm pretty sure this is done by a fill-in guy because the guy who voiced Roshi originally was he passed just before the end of Dragon Ball Z. So this is not the original Roshi. But Goku explains to him what happened. He just goes,
Oh no!
and I hear it in my head all the time. There's also a Vegeta sound that we'll get to later.
Nani? Goku?
But let me read the second half of this synopsis. Let me see. When it is time for blastoff, Vegeta decides that Trunks and Goten should go instead of Gohan, because in his eyes, the two of them have gotten soft in this time of peace. Seriously, I think about that Vegeta dragging them down the hallway scene all the time. I often think that sometimes people will get upset with Dragon Ball and its plot as a whole when they see scenes like that where they're like, Vegeta's encouraging his son and his nephew Goten to go train and go out there with Goku. Like, imagine if he had that kind of temperament all the time and what kind of stories they could tell. Why is he being so cool right now? Imagine if Goten did go. And that's the big thing with GT. Like, there are so many, like, what if this happens? What if that happened? I say happens. I mean happened, past tense. As somebody who's already seen the series, they could have done so much more cooler shit, man. That was a sentence that I just said. I don't think the words made sense, but you understood what I meant by them. I think about that hallway scene in that regard all the time. Like, the fan fiction we can write in our own brains based off of things we see in the actual series sometimes can negatively impact the series. All the, what's that fucking fan fiction site Kelly likes? AO3, I think it's called. I don't know. Those motherfuckers understand what I mean. This means that Trunks will be relieved of his duties as president of Capsule Corp and Goten can cancel his state. While Goten is saying goodbye to his girlfriend, Trunks and Goku board the ship, only to find that Pan has snuck into the control room. She hits the blast off button before Goten can climb aboard. Now, Goku, Trunks, and Pan begin their adventure as Goten can finally go back to dating his girlfriend. Yeah, I think it would have been a lot more fun if Goten somehow made it onto the ship. Although, to be sure, the idea of Gohan going instead of like Pan, like a Trunks Goku Gohan adventure in space, that could be kind of fun. I feel like that kind of weighs out all the dynamics pretty well. And I understand you got to bring a character like Pan to like have some, some sort of plot device to make a story happen, whether she's kidnapped or she's beat up or she's rebellious and goes on her own adventure and she adopts a fucking technology and robot, all that shit. I understand why you have to have a Pan, but sometimes I think about like, what does that GT look like with Goten instead of Pan? Or Gohan, Goten, Trunks, like it just could have been a lot of fun. I will say, when I think about GT and how it starts versus Super and how it starts, I will say GT most definitely has the better start. It gives you a lot of potential and a lot of places to go with it. Ultimately, they kind of go some not so fun places with it. And by that, I mean just the stories get repetitive and kind of boring and kind of childish. And I'm going to watch some of these. I don't know how many I'll get through, but we'll see. But the first two episodes are episodes I think about a lot. Episode 64, the final episode of the series. I think about that episode a lot. GT definitely has the better bookends with the intro and the outro for the series than Super does. Because you think about how Super picks up. I'm a farmer. I got to go sell my rutabagas or whatever. Here, Goku, here's a bunch of money. Go back to training. Thanks, Mr. Satan. Got to pick up my tractor. Ooh, you know what I mean? Like, and then the end of Super, it's cool because they just won the Tournament of Power. But then it's like a few weeks passed. They had a barbecue. And we'll see you later. Like, oh, cool. Very anticlimactic after the biggest fucking climax in the world. I don't know. I'm again, Super as a whole is a better product. And it's crazy to me that people say that edgy GT stuff. And I say this as somebody who dearly loves Dragon Ball GT. I know whenever I do talk about a different series, that I'll usually talk about the opening and ending songs. So just briefly, Don Don Hikokoro, I think, for my money, I know this is probably not a popular take, but it's probably more popular than you believe it is. I think that's the greatest Dragon Ball opening song of all time. Is it more iconic than Chala Hechala or Mako Fushigi Adventure? No, it is not. But I think it is a better song. Shout out to Field of View. I actually think, I could be wrong. Is it Field of View's bass player or is it Zard's bass player? Might be Zard's bass player. I'm going to have to look into it. I used to know this. I forgot. A bass player for one of the two bands is actually the composer for this series. And I do love this series, this music. I don't think I love it more than Shinsuke Kikuchi's score for the first two series, but this guy does a great job with the orchestrations of a million different versions of Don Don. Also, the ending song, Hitori Janai. Hitori Janai. Kimi ga. Good fucking song. But I don't think it's like by any means, it's not Boku Watashi, We Were Angels. You know what I'm saying? That's a good fuck. Or Doggy Kitty Zenkai Power. That one's goofy though. We Were Angels, I think, is a genuinely amazing song. There's a lot of good ending songs. Like, they don't have one bad ending song in GT, but they do have like 3 or 4 of them, which I think is interesting for a 64 episode series. Either way, I'm sure I'll talk about it some more. This is the first entry into the GT rewatch. I don't know how this will come out in the edit. This is very much just an experimental, let's see how it goes thing. But it will be on the Patreon for at a minimum. We'll see if it makes a public cut. Guys, I think I'm going to go watch episode 3 and come back and just do episode 3 right now so I can get mad and shit. Not mad like on purpose, but like I feel like I just kind of, glazed the first 2 episodes, and I know episode 3, it's like if episode 2 was like a 7, episode 3 is like a 2. Does that make sense? Anyway, I'll talk with you later. Thank you for listening to this. If you're just checking this out on the Patreon, again, considering signing up for the $5 a month tier. It goes to hosting fees, and I get $5 a month to Totally Not Mark and Mr. Fusion. Mr. Fusion, friend of the show. Those are 2 of the best Dragon Ball content creators out there. So I just take your money and repurpose it back toward people who are better at this than I will ever be. But I'll see you next time for Super Dope. I don't know how to sign off on this GT episode. Do I just do a da-na-na-na-na-na, or do I do like a da-na-na, I gotta go and make another drink and eat some pizza. Yeah.